Hello, YouTube. I want to share today a few interesting news items from Antarctica, from the Russian Vostok station. Before we begin, please look at my playlist about the Russian research in Antarctica. It has quite a lot of fascinating information, also about Lake Vostok, about paranormal phenomena cited by Soviet military and scientists in Antarctica for decades, and much more, including developments in more recent times. I monitor news from there, and this is the reason for this video. Something is definitely afoot, because the station is being reinforced and modernized. Let's listen to the official explanations. Some interesting information is revealed there, albeit somewhat obscure. I will emphasize as necessary. But first, a few words about the Arctic and Antarctic Research Institute. Soviet and later Russian scientists have been working in the Arctic since 1920 and in Antarctica since 1956. That's the official account. They have been there earlier, but that's in my other videos. Those scientists stood at the origins of polar research. Many of them gave the name for the geographical objects in the northern and southern hemispheres. They discovered the Vostok Lake and the Lomonosov and Mendeleev ridges. Today, the AARI, or Arctic and Antarctic Research Institute, abbreviated, continues unraveling the secrets of planet Earth in Arctic and Antarctica as a state scientific research center. The Institute is a full-cycle organization. They do everything, from obtaining data from their observatories and conducting exploratory, fundamental expeditionary research to data processing, mapping, and forecasts. Their stated most important applied task in the Arctic is to ensure safe navigation along the Northern Sea route. I am sure they also have unstated tasks too. AARI regularly organizes marine expeditions in the Arctic and Antarctic. The Institute's fleet includes two scientific expeditionary vessels, Academic Fedorov and Academic Treshnikov. In the next years, they expect to get the North Pole Polar Drifting Research Platform, which can perform continuing studies in the Arctic Ocean. 3 large scientific observatories belong to the AARI Arctic stations: the research base Ice Cap Baranova, the Tixi Hydrometeorological Observatory, and the Russian Scientific Center on the Spitsbergen Archipelago. When we speak about Tixi, I have to tell you that in my research of the UFOs over the Arctic, I've seen this geographical location quite a lot. I believe it was also featured among the 124 pages of the UFO documents that the KGB actually declassified and turned over to Soviet ufologists via Pavel Popovich, the cosmonaut, back in 1991. Anyway, back to the Antarctica. In Antarctica, AARI constantly is monitoring environmental changes at 5 year-round stations: Novolazarevska, Bellingshausen, Mirny, Progress, and Vostok. In the summer, the work also takes place at the seasonal field bases Молодежная, Дружная 4, Banger Oasis, Rurcla, and Leningradskaya. In the area of the Vostok station, one of the most important discoveries of the 21st century was made: the discovery of the subglacial Lake Vostok. The head of the Russian Antarctic expedition is Alexander Klepikov. The first update I want to give you is from December 2022. According to Alexander Makarov, the AARI director, the further development of research in Antarctica involves a number of ambitious projects, the center of which will be the new winter complex. Its commissioning is scheduled for 2025, but most of the research, including the third penetration to the subglacial Lake Vostok, located at the depth of more than 3,700 meters, the collection of unique samples of relic water from it, and for the first time bottom sediments, requires much more funding than they're given today. Plus time because of the short duration of the working season and the harsh climatic conditions in central Antarctica, the timing of experimental studies is obviously more compressed in a more compressed than would be in a more comfortable environment. However, some of the global projects scientists are about to undertake this season. For example, they plan to continue drilling at the new borehole 5G-5 above Lake Vostok as part of the Ancient Ice Research Program. Alexei Turkeyev, head of the glacial drilling team and leading engineer of the Laboratory of Climate Change and Environment LICOS of the AARI, outlined the tasks faced by the researchers, the plan for organizing the work, and the timing of its start and completion. Immediately after arrival in Antarctica and acclimatization, our team will start reconservation of the drilling complex and geophysical studies of the existing well, which are necessary to make sure that there is no possibility of emergency situations. We will then engage in around-the-clock drilling operations. Despite adverse factors, such as low oxygen levels in the air, we plan to complete it in early February 2023. He noted that St. Petersburg Mining University is working hard to train young professionals. On the one hand, they are engaged in scientific work within the framework of their thesis research, and on the other hand, they learn to operate and upgrade the station equipment independently, eliminate its possible malfunctions in order to ensure future growth of polar research efficiency. This is not the first time that some of the guys will be traveling to Antarctica to test their designs and gain practical experience on the rig. To further study the subglacial Lake Vostok and the ancient ice, a rather large number of complex technical and engineering tasks need to be solved. This requires people. So they try to regularly increase the number of university staff involved in solving them, including by attracting promising young people. This season, 5 members of the expedition team are scientists under 30 years old, and one of them will travel to Antarctica for the first time. Every year, the work being done is becoming more diverse. So they are involving not only drillers, but also geologists, geophysicists, ecologists, electricians, mechanics, and other specialists. That's according to Alexei Bolshunov, a leading drilling specialist from the Mining University's glacial drilling team. As stressed Vladimir Lipenkov, candidate of geographical sciences, leading researcher, head of the laboratory LICOS, the ice sheet of Antarctica is a unique source of data on the gas composition of the atmosphere in the distant past. I wonder what else they found from the distant past there. Its study is virtually the only way to accurately identify the anthropogenic impact on the atmosphere during the entire industrial era. On the basis of this data, it is possible to study the mechanisms of climate change, the factors that influence them, and, as a result, to create predictive models of possible climate transformations and the impact of these changes on people's lives. For example, thanks to the I-core obtained earlier at the Vostok station, we have already been able to reconstruct the Earth climate over the last 440,000 years. That's 4 great climatic cycles. That is, this is the time during which our planet had 4 ice ages, followed by an interglacial period up to the last one, the Holocene, in which we live. Together with a sample from Concordia Station covering 8 climate cycles, these studies have experimentally confirmed the link between greenhouse gases in the atmosphere and climate change. Now climatologists want to understand why 1 million years ago the length of climate cycles has increased from 40,000 to 100,000 years, said Vladimir Lipenkov. One of the most significant research projects planned for the near future in Antarctica will be a study of the subglacial Lake Vostok. To achieve this, the mining university is developing environmentally friendly methods of drilling an access well, opening up the lake and sampling water and bottom sediments. This season, research work will be carried out, and the results will form the basis for new technologies. In this regard, scientists plan to continue drilling well 5G-5 to make cores of ancient atmospheric ice over the Lake Vostok. Previously extracted ice samples from this horizon were dated by the AARI specialists using 3 independent methods, which show that their age reaches 1,200,000 years. The resampling of the cores, which are of such interest to scientists, became possible after the successful work carried out by employees of the mining university and the AARI to divert them from the main borehole. Now I want to give you news from, I believe, April of 2023. In Antarctica, a new winter complex is being built at the Vostok station. Alexander Makarov, director of the Arctic and Antarctic Research Institute, told Russian journalists how this large-scale modernization is going, what the updated Vostok will be like, and who will be able to get to work in Antarctica. The Soviet Vostok station appeared on the scene in 1957. All these years, the station has been called unique. What exactly is its uniqueness? When it was opened, it was the only station in central Antarctica at the distance of about 1,500 kilometers from the coast, in the area of the southern geomagnetic pole. It so happened that in the place where we organized the station 65 years ago, there is a unique water body, Lake Vostok, under the thickness of the Antarctic glacier, 3.5 kilometers long. The research program of the Vostok station is largely based around the study of this lake. It is difficult to imagine another such object. There are practically no other such stations. We have a minimum temperature registered at the Vostok station minus 89 degrees. The previous modernization of the station was about 40 years ago in the 1980s. And what stage is the modernization now? What did the participants of the scientific expedition manage to find? Now, an impressive project is underway to create a new winter complex at the Vostok station. The second season is underway. Last year, cargo was delivered to Antarctica. It was a very difficult transport operation. 4 vessels were operating. Everything was unloaded near the Progress station, put together, organized a warehouse, storage of fuel, equipment, and modules for the station, and began to carry cargo to the Vostok station. It was a difficult administrative and transport task to organize such a hike of 1,500 kilometers, to supply everything with fuel, equipment, and so on. It will be an absolutely autonomous station, as if on another planet. What new opportunities will Vostok give scientists? The comparison with space, in my opinion, continues the Russian scientist, is successful. The ISS orbit is at an altitude of up to 500 kilometers. The work is controlled by the control center. Our hero cosmonauts are under constant supervision, and we have the opportunity to return to Earth. The Vostok station is isolated for 8 to 9 months of the year, practically inaccessible by any transport. In this regard, it turns out that we are worse than cosmonauts. The new Vostok will provide super safe, comfortable, modern working and living conditions for 35 scientists and employees in summer and 15 to 20 people in winter. I have something from other Russian publications since 2022, and the following is excerpted. It might help us understand more about the projects there. Let me remind you that under the station, under a layer of ice of 3,769 meters, there is the famous Lake Vostok. This lake has been isolated from the outside world for millions of years and developed completely separately. For the first time, it was possible to drill into it in 2012. Then, samples of water from the lake were obtained. Scientists even claimed the discovery of previously unknown bacteria in these samples. The study of Lake Vostok is the most famous scientific activity of the station, but there are others. For example, space dust is collected at the Vostok station. The fact is that dust from continents does not penetrate here. This is one of the cleanest places on the planet, which means that almost all the dust around the station has a cosmic origin from micrometeorites falling on Antarctica. This dust is collected and examined, for example, in search of extraterrestrial life. By the way, the very possibility of living and working in such conditions demonstrates that theoretically a person can live and work, for example, on Mars, where climatic conditions are similar, but rather even milder, and the very design of such stations, after some refinement, can serve as a prototype of lunar or Martian bases. And now, the very latest news item from August 2023 is this. For the first time, scientists of the 68th Russian Antarctic Expedition of the Arctic and Antarctic Research Institute, AARI, together with colleagues from other scientific organizations, managed to grow watermelon in the coldest place on Earth at the Vostok Antarctic Station. The joint experiment plants, in which specialists from the Agrophysical Institute and the Institute of Biomedical Problems of the Russian Academy of Sciences took part. It has been taking place at the Antarctic Station since February 2020. Previously, 80 varieties of various vegetable crops have already been grown here. For example, low-growing tomatoes of 2 varieties and pepper, sorrel, arugula and cabbage, watercress, leaf mustard and turnips, as well as amaranth, grain crop, chard, herbaceous plant, purslane, parsley, dill, basil, spinach, and others. In April of this year, a watermelon was planted for the first time at the Vostok station. According to the AARI, in order to create favorable conditions for a thermophilic melon culture, specialists of the Agrophysical Institute have developed a special phytotechnical complex. The soil for growing watermelons was replaced with a thin layer soil substitute, panaponomics. Nutrients were added and the lighting was made close to resemble the sunlight. Data on the physiological state of polar explorers at the Vostok Antarctic Station, about their reaction to the presence of plants and the influence of the latter on the psychological and emotional component of the team's life activity, is an invaluable basis for the formation of living conditions for people in closed systems on future space stations on the Moon and other planets. According to Oleg Orlov, director of the Institute of Biomedical Problems of the Russian Academy of Sciences. What I want to add to you, if they are training humans in the Mars-like conditions and probably Phobos-like conditions, I think something is going on. And there may be something, of course, in the Lake Vostok that we have no idea what the scientists have discovered, and it's very hard to get that information, but we're doing our best. But it's very interesting that they're training people to be very close to the Martian-like conditions. I will bring you more news from Lake Vostok. Sitting and guessing and second guessing, anybody can do it. But we want more news. Of course, I'll follow up to the best of my ability, and if something interesting will come up, I will let you know. I am interested in the cargo that was delivered to Lake Vostok, but let's see what will be available in the open sources one day. If you like my research and if you can support me, please do so through the links you will discover in the description to this video. I'll put a link to my Antarctica playlist, so it's easier for you to see my previous videos. I think you'll find them interesting. Please tell others about my channel. Please like my videos, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for your attention to my work as usual.